let's talk about viruses. We have them in grapevines. So this one is pretty gnarly. This is easily our most important virus at the moment. And it's called grapevine red blotch virus, or red blotch. Generally with red blotch, we don't see a yield reduction when we get this kind of virus. That said, these folks up in British Columbia have reported a yield reduction, but they are the only ones that I know of that have reported a lower yield. It may have to do with their marginal climate, and then when you put sort of red blotch in that kind of marginal area, maybe then you start to see yield reductions. We don't see that happen on the west coast of the U.S. But what we do see on the West Coast are these things, and this is the most common. These are the most common symptoms. The big one is the reduction in sugar accumulation. So a lot of times we'll see with red blotch, the fruit will start to ripen, and then it'll get to something like 19, 20 bricks, and then it will just stop ripening altogether. It'll stop loading sugar. Or it'll keep going, but it'll go very, very slowly. So when I've done differential harvest where I've harvested fruit that has red blotch symptoms versus asymptomatic. Asymptomatic may still have the virus, but that's how we did the harvest. I've seen things like a 5-degree Brix difference between the symptomatic and asymptomatic, which is huge, by the way. We in cool climates, we'll say that they're going to ripen about 1 brick every week. After about 20 bricks, 19, 20 bricks, they do 1 brick a week. So that's 5 weeks of difference there in ripening. The other thing that red blotch will do is kind of hinder the synthesis of anthocyanins. So again, when I've done differential harvest like that and I've tested anthocyanins, I've seen like a 40-50% decrease in anthocyanins with the red blotch fruit. And then when we made the wine, you can absolutely see it in the wine, which is hugely problematic because that's the first thing that you as a consumer will see in the glass with a red wine is color. So that is the most important impact factor for a red wine because it's the first thing you see. And then sometimes we see like mouthfeel differences as well because it can impact the phenolic profile of wines. But really the most common symptoms that we see with red blotch is the color loss and the Brix reductions. The red blotch is definitely vectored by something. The only thing that has been confirmed as a vector is this little thing called the three-cornered alfalfa tree hopper, or what we call 3-cat. Three-cat, the three-cornered alfalfa tree hopper. But sort of. Okay, so they found this thing in California. They have confirmed that it can vector the disease in greenhouse trials, but they haven't yet confirmed field transmission. So we still have no idea if this is really vectoring it. What is probably the best vector of this virus, and really any virus, is humans. We have a ton of this around the world, or around North America. We discovered as an industry, red blotch was kind of discovered in 2007. So in 2007, people started sending in some samples for leaf roll analysis because it looks like leaf roll virus, which we'll look at. They were sending it in for leaf roll, and then they were coming back. The results were coming back negative. So the labs were going, "You don't have leaf roll." But the viticulturists were out there going like, "It's the plants look like blotchy red leaves, and our Brix are low, like things are being hindered." So like it's definitely a virus. And then that happened. So that starts around 2007, and then it takes until 2012 for a researcher at UC Davis and a researcher at Cornell to concurrently discover the actual virus itself. So it's a pretty new thing for our industry, but it's definitely been in our industry for a very long time. And we have a lot of it all over North America. There's a bit in Canada. I think there might be some in South Korea, but it isn't everywhere. It doesn't seem to be everywhere. I don't believe it's in New Zealand. I don't believe it's in Australia. But what has spread it around the world was probably nurseries. Like they were testing for, the nurseries would go out in their vineyards and they were testing for viruses, and they were testing for leaf roll, but they weren't testing for red blotch because that didn't exist. So they were just propagating red blotch infected vines and then giving it out to folks. I farmed a vineyard that had essentially 100% red blotch, which we were pretty sure we were able to actually track it all the way back to a nursery that was from material that was planted in 2000. So yeah, the important thing here is start clean, stay clean, because viruses do come from nurseries commonly, and that probably is the major way that they spread. Then start with clean vines from the nursery. Okay. This is what it looks like. Red blotch. All these things are as they sound. So it's a blotchy red leaf. You can see the red veins. It's actually not diagnostic with red blotch. Many people believe it is, but it's not. You can have red blotch present without the red veins. So leaf roll. So leaf roll is a virus that we've had and we've known about for years and years and years. Right. This is the one that got confused. This is where people were, like I told you, people confused red blotch for leaf roll for a long time until we isolated the red blotch virus. Leaf roll, it looks very similar. You have the blotchy red leaves. By the way, you only have red leaves on these viruses in red varieties. In white varieties, it looks like chlorosis, like kind of white chlorosis on the leaf, which makes it harder to see in white varieties. It's very difficult to see virus expressed in white varieties because it just goes kind of white and paler. Sometimes it's, yeah. But in reds, because red grapes have so many anthocyanins, and like an abundance of anthocyanins, it expresses like that in the leaves. So with leaf roll, you've got that blotchy red thing between the leaf veins. Generally, you have green veins with leaf roll. And in red varieties, you see the redness. In white varieties, you see chlorosis between the veins, like I said, still green veins. You get a yield reduction generally with leaf roll, 10 to 20%. And the bricks and color reduction does happen with leaf roll, but it's not as extreme as with red blotch generally. So what you do see, like in California, on the more commodity end, the value end of the, like if it's a big vineyard supplying sort of value grapes to value wines, right? If they get leaf roll, oftentimes you'll see that they'll just leave it. They'll be like, yeah, we're getting a yield reduction and the color reduction, but it's not enough to really warrant pulling the vineyard out. So you'll see vineyards, entire vineyards in California, large vineyards, with just like a bunch of leaf roll, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. It's going into some $5 bottle of wine. It doesn't really matter all that much. It's vectored by a mealybug, which are these cute little guys. And there's one in particular called the vine mealybug, which can have like 6 generations in a season in California in those warmer climates, which is extremely problematic. And so that's kind of how you control the leaf roll virus. If you know you have mealybugs, there are ways to monitor for them, and then there are ways to spray certain insecticides to deal with the mealybug. This is leaf roll. This is the symptom. So you can see, again, it looks very similar to red blotch in terms of the blotchy leaves, but then you start to see those leaf margins curling there. See that? Pretty intense curling on the leaf margins. Not always. It's not always that extreme, so it's not clear. So the important thing with any of these viruses that I always tell people is test, don't guess. Go out and look at it and go, yep, I got a virus. And make those kind of like, yeah, I think maybe it's leaf roll because of it's got green veins and not red veins. That's fine to do that, but don't just stay there. Don't just be like, oh yeah, I definitely know because I'm really good at visual identification. Never do that. Always, if you're going to be farming or doing anything, always test, don't guess. This applies for nutrients and things as well. Always make sure that what you're seeing is accurate. Again, doesn't this look pretty? This is some Bordeaux variety here with a beautiful leaf roll symptom. And here it is in Chardonnay. And this is a very extreme symptom of leaf roll. Really extreme curling. Oftentimes you don't see it this extreme. This vine's probably under water stress as well, making the symptom even more pronounced. The more you stress a vine out, like with water, the more the symptoms become, like the worse those symptoms become. Okay. So if this vine was unstressed, it may not actually curl like that. And then actually all you would see is this kind of chlorosis, which is not super clear, right? You might just look at this and go, it's nitrogen deficient because everything's kind of pale. It's very hard to see virus symptoms in white varieties. So this is, like I said, red blotch and leaf roll. This is a red blotch vine over here, leaf roll vine over here. This is the old school. They used to say, yeah, you could use the red veins. You can see that it says red veins, green veins as diagnostic things, but actually, truly, you can't, because, like I've said, there is red blotch that presents without red veins. So, yeah, the big thing you could tell the difference is this one with leaf roll, the leaves can roll, the margins would roll, and then this one with red blotch, the margins don't really roll. So yeah, managing viruses, like I said, start clean, stay clean. So we have a thing called the National Clean Plant Network, which is a network of mother blocks that are at universities, of vines that then go out to nurseries. And there's all these protocols around how that's done. And so we have all these people all in this thing called the National Clean Plant Network. So things like Cornell and University of Minnesota, UC Davis, all have mother blocks of grapevines. Like Cornell and University of Minnesota, have a lot of hybrids that they bred. And UC Davis has most of the Vitis vinifera that's used in the US. So what happens is a nursery will go to the university and say, hey, we want some of this, whatever, Pinot Noir 777, whatever it is. And then the university will say, okay, cool. So here's, 2 plants. And these are like certified plants that we know are virus free, hopefully. Maybe not always, but yeah, hopefully. The controls were stringent, very stringent at the university. And then they'll go to the nursery, and then the nursery will blow it up. They'll propagate from that. And then hopefully at the nursery, they're following protocols to keep the plants clean. Again, it's hopefully, all right, we're still dealing with a natural system. Viruses can enter the system at the nursery, and then that can get distributed throughout the industry. But we do have things like certification protocols. So like in California, the CDFA, the California Department of Food and Ag, will certify nurseries by like going to the nursery, checking their QC protocols. The CDFA like representatives will walk blocks like once or twice a year. And then if they see anything weird like red leaves and that sort of thing, they'll take cuttings and do tests, and that sort of thing. So the certifications are around to prevent these kinds of things from spreading from the nursery into the economy. It's not to say also that we're required to plant certified vines. We're not. You can absolutely do uncertified material as well. But this is a major concern for the grape and wine industry. So many of us are using certified material because, yeah, this can be a huge issue for us, already is a huge issue for us, causing millions of dollars of damage to our industry every year. And it's only getting worse. So the other way that we deal with it, besides just dealing with clean plants from the nurseries, is roguing and replanting. So we'll go out, and if we find a vine with a virus, then we'll rip that vine out, and then we'll also rip out the adjacent vines as well, because they may be asymptomatic. So we'll have a symptomatic vine, but the neighboring vines may also have the virus, likely do. So we'll take out all those vines as well, and then replant in those empty spaces. And then, of course, vector control. It's like I mentioned with the mealybug vectors leaf roll and does it very efficiently. So if we're farming in Napa, we're trapping mealybugs, we're monitoring for mealybugs, we notice we have an issue, then we'll spray for the mealybugs so we don't get spread. Difficult with red blotch because, like I said, the three-cornered alfalfa tree hopper is the only vector that's been identified, but it hasn't even been. We don't even know if it's doing field spreading. that hasn't been verified. It can spread in a nursery situation, like a greenhouse situation, but we haven't seen field spread yet. So, and we don't really know how to control the three-cornered alfalfa tree hopper um, with sprays or anything. So, yeah, there's nothing we can do there. And then sometimes it's just a matter of replacing your vineyard entirely, unfortunately, especially with things if you're making high-end Cabernet Sauvignon or whatever, high-end Pinot Noir, and you've got red blotch, you're trying to sell those $300 bottles, then the red blotch virus concentration in your vineyard might have gotten to a point where it's just the most economic thing for you to do is just rip it out, replant. What are the symptoms of leaf roll virus? Cool. Rolling leaf margins, curling leaves, green veins, and of course the red blotchiness. Yeah, green veins, red blotchy, rolling leaves. Awesome. Yeah. And of course, I mean, that's, maybe I shouldn't have put it on the slide itself, but yeah, that's a symptom there. Cool. You guys are viticulturists now. Great. Awesome.